They said, "Bring him before the eyes of the people, so that they may witness his trial." They asked, "Was it you, Abraham, who did this to our gods?" He said, "No, it was done by the biggest of them, this one. Ask them if they can talk." They turned to one another, saying, "It is you who are in the wrong." But then they lapsed again and said, "You know very well these gods cannot speak." Abraham said, "How can you worship what can neither benefit nor harm you, instead of God?" The Quran shows us that worshipping anything created, such as idols, is illogical, as the story of Abraham demonstrates. He was able to smash the idols to pieces, since idols are not able to defend themselves. Then they obviously cannot benefit or harm us. So why should mankind take them as gods? Rather, we should worship God, the one that gave us life, sustains us, and will take our souls when we die. Now have a think about the various gods and goddesses that are worshipped in religions other than Islam. Are they similar in appearance and nature to human beings and animals? Don't they all have weaknesses and shortcomings? We are now going to refer back to the 112th chapter of the Quran. We will use this chapter as a measuring stick by which we will compare all gods and goddesses to the Quran's concept of God. Say, "He is God the One, God the Eternal. He begot no one, nor was he begotten, nor no one is comparable to him." Amazingly, there is no god or goddess who measures up to the Quran's concept of God. All other deities fall short. Give it a try. Think of a deity from an idol-worshipping religion and see if it can measure up to the Quranic standard. If the god is part of the creation, for example, they were born or died, then they fall short of the verse, God the Eternal. If they look like anything in the creation, for example, a human being or animal, then they fall short of the verse, no one is comparable to him. In short, in just 4 short verses, the Quran shows that every other deity that is and has ever been worshipped by a man is inferior to God Almighty and therefore not worthy of worship. Shouldn't we worship only that which is worthy? Something that has no equal, as we have seen. It is only the Quranic concept of God that does true justice to our Creator's majesty, supremacy, and power. Preservation. Have you ever thought about how the religious scriptures that we have today have been passed down to us throughout history, thanks to innovations like the printing press? We live in a world which allows for the mass distribution of information. So we no longer have to worry about the loss of our religious scriptures. In fact, we have probably taken their preservation for granted, but advances in technology such as printing only account for a small portion of the histories of most religious texts, which span thousands of years. The vast majority of religious texts today have been passed down to us by the scribal tradition, whereby manuscripts are manually copied word for word by hand using materials like ink and leather. In this method of preserving information reliable, have a think about communication in the modern world, such as email or text messages. Have you ever sent an email or text message that contains spelling and grammar mistakes, even with the benefit of spell check features that exist in modern computers and phones? Even professional media outlets often print newspapers and magazines with grammatical mistakes. Now imagine having to copy an entire book of hundreds of pages manually by hand, using only paper and ink, without relying on modern technology. It would undoubtedly be filled with mistakes. This is exactly what we find when we compare the manuscript copies of religious texts from the past. They are filled with spelling mistakes, missing words and sentences. There were even cases where scribes made intentional changes to suit an agenda. It was easy to do this without most people realizing, because literacy rates in the ancient past were very low and there were very few scribes. Now extend this copying process over hundreds or thousands of years. You can imagine how much a text can change over such a long span of time, as accidental and international changes gradually creep in. Now imagine if you had the task of evaluating all these written copies with their different words and sentences. You would have to compare each of them to the original, word by word and line by line. This would be an extremely time-consuming task, but if you had enough time or enough people helping you, eventually you could work out